For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home Make it happen. There's no stopping us now. We're gonna do it again. It's not a question of how. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of when.
Hello again, everybody. Joe Piscopo, Shea Stadium. The big story. Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob with another Mets pregame show right here on the channel. How is everybody doing on this football Sunday? Hopefully everybody is doing okay, guys. There is 14 games left in this miserable 2023 season for our New York Mets. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we need to get to the offseason. Yeah, it's great to see the young kids play. It's nice to see Mauricio doing what he's doing. Beatty seems like he's fell off the face of the earth. But this team has been an utter disaster. They're 68-80. Like I said, 14 games left, ladies and gentlemen. And it's about time to just let this season be over with. As long as the Braves and the Phillies don't win a World Series, I think I'll be okay. Right? The channel's not going to stop because the Mets are not in the playoffs. I'll do some playoff games, live streams as well, because that seems to be a lot of fun for a lot of people. So we'll do that. But the biggest problem that I continue to have is the outrageous takes, the outrageous opinions and emotion for what some of these players are doing when there's no pressure on them. Like, oh, great, McNeil's playing better. Wonderful. Nimmo, Alonso, Lindor, and other guys. Like, the kids, great, they're getting experience. But am I going to really take September and say, oh, they're definitely got to be a part of this team? Look how good they were in September when the games don't matter. That's worrisome to me. And you know what? As good as Mauricio looks, there's not going to be enough at-bats for him, for teams to adjust to him and to see what they can do and find his flaws. And then when they figure it out, that's when he has to adjust. That's how Major League Baseball players stay in the major leagues. And that's where I want to be with these guys. Like Brett Beatty, right? He has his moments, but ever since they figured out how to pitch to him, he's just not even close. They send him back to the minor leagues, and he's hitting home runs, batting 300. Well, guess what? That means absolutely nothing. So, in my opinion, don't take September numbers and go crazy with them. And that goes for everybody on this team. Because there hasn't been pressure ever since the deadline. And if you take those numbers after the deadline and make it a big deal, you're gonna be in for a rude awakening. Now, do I think McNeil's a bad player? No. Nimmo? No. Alonso? No. But there is something about not having the pressure of a big game, of an important game, towards these players. And that's something that I don't think that a lot of us tend to understand. Like, I can care less what these guys do in September. I don't care what they did after the deadline. I'm so glad Nimmo decided to figure out his on-base percentage and getting his average up a little bit more. I'm glad McNeil is finally figuring out that he doesn't have to hit a home run every time up. I'm glad Alonso is looking like the beast that he should be all year and not become a ghost in middle of May into June, and when the team needed you most, you were nowhere to be found. When we needed your power, you weren't there in June. So it goes for a lot of players. But the fact of the matter is, we are so concerned about this guy. Oh, look what he's doing right now. Like, I mean, Twitter blew up. Like when he hit the 3-run homer to tie the game the other night. Like, why are you so excited? Great. He can hit 50 home runs again, and his team's not going to make the playoffs. Isn't it to win a World Series to make the playoffs? Can we stop about the individual accolades here? Didn't we learn our lesson with Jacob deGrom? We never do. And then we wonder why people act like, this fan base is a joke. Sometimes you hear, oh, why are you rooting for it? Why are you still talking about a team that can't do anything? They're not even in the playoffs, right? Look, I love this team with the best of them. I have season tickets, right? I'm wasting $4,000 a year on a team that doesn't make the playoffs every year, or at least be consistent enough to make the playoffs every year. I do that. I do that because I love baseball. I love my Mets. I have a YouTube channel because I love the team, right? There's only so much I can do about talking to the wall or talking to the people I know, or people, in a household about the Mets. They don't want to hear it anymore, right? That's why I'm on here, to vent to you guys so you guys can vent to me and we go back and forth. That's the most important thing. And it goes back to me where I feel like we're so enamored with individual accolades, like specifically Pete Alonso. We do realize, right, as good as he's been, and again, baseball is a team game, I get it. But everybody loves to blame everybody else on this team when your franchise player was non-existent in the middle of May, basically all of May, and basically almost all of June. When the team was struggling the most, who do you turn to when things are going wrong? Your star player. That's the most important thing that I get upset about. That's why when people like, oh, just give him a blank check. No. Right? Because you've seen this too many times where extremely good players, and look, Pete Alonso is a Mets superstar. He is not Aaron Judge, and that's okay. You don't have to be. But we act like the face of the franchise wasn't a real problem along with the other guys on the team. But guess what? Pete Alonso can do no wrong. But I do remember a lot of Mets fans killing Francisco Lindor for padding his stats in 2021 when he got hot in the half a season. Nobody wants to talk about that. Yet Pete Alonso has been padding his stats for 2 months now, and nobody cares, right? When the pressure was on in June, how many times did we strike out with runners on base? How many times? When did he hit that big home run? Do you think I care about the big run he hit a couple of days ago? The 3-run homer to tie the game so we can flip his bat? I don't care about that. What does that mean to me? What does that mean to anybody besides his individual accolades? That's just another bullet in his gun. Negotiating time. That is it. So we're not going to blame Alonso for anything this year. So when we give him 8 years, $210 million, are we going to stop blaming him then? Because we have no problem blaming Lindor. But it seems like Alonso can do no wrong when he was one of the biggest problems why this team was a complete disaster the middle of May all the way until almost the end of June. Because on June 1st, we were a couple of games out of the division and we had one of the wild card spots. You can't be the face of the franchise and only get the credit when things are going well and never get the blame. That is not fair. Yeah, Richard, that's fine. But again, see different numbers. How much more numbers do you want? He's going to hit 50 and 120. The fact of the matter is, how many of those 50 and 120 can you tell me happened in really big spots? That's my problem. And I'm not saying trade Pete Alonso. The fact of the matter is, I see it all the time. Everybody can't wait to blame Vogelback. Like, Vogelback is the plague of this country. Like, it seems like he is the worst thing since sliced. He's the worst thing since Armageddon. I don't know. Yeah, I am still hating on Pete because nobody wants to blame Pete, but they want to blame Vogelback and they want to blame Lindor and they want to blame everybody else but Pete Alonso. I'm sorry. Go back. He'll hit 50 home runs this year. He'll hit about 125 RBIs, right? Pete Alonso pads his stats just like everybody else does in this league that are not team players that are not making the playoffs. Machado's putting up good numbers. He's been padding his stats for 2 months as well. Look, I love Pete Alonso, but Mets Twitter was absolutely ridiculous the last couple of days. Like the love affair. Can we win? This is the problem. Like Jacob deGrom, we knew that this team was never scoring runs. Jacob deGrom didn't have teams like Pete Alonso had teams the last couple of years, right? We love Pete Alonso. We love what he does. The charity work, the goofiness. We all love that crap. But when is it going to be about winning? That's what I don't understand. Yeah, baseball is not basketball. That's understandable. But again, the same people that like you, CD, who don't want to blame anything on Pete Alonso, yet he batted 198 and he batted 205 from May until the end of June. And that was before the hand injury. So don't give me that crap. The fact of the matter is, the face of the franchise in baseball, just like Aaron Judge, is getting the brunt of it soon too. This is exactly. And you have to understand that. You have to understand that. Because Aaron Judge is the face of the franchise, right? You know, there was some Yankee fans that are saying, well, great, he has great seasons. Great. He has the American League home run record. But what did he do in the postseason that same year? He batted 200. And when the team needed him most, he was nowhere to be found. Pete Alonso is not getting that blame until that contract comes. You get that contract? Agree. CD, again, he is the least of the Mets problems, but he wasn't in May and June. He was part and one of the bigger problems along with Francisco Lindor. But people are going to go to Francisco Lindor quicker because he's not homegrown. Pete Alonso, you know, you talk bad about him, you're the worst person in America. That's the problem. And when it comes to the Mets in general, right? I don't want to get rid of Pete Alonso. But the fact of the matter is, at some point, you got to step up in the biggest moments in the most important games. Your team needed you in June. Where were you? Out of those 50 home runs he's going to hit, the least amount of home runs he hit was in June. He's a power hitter, right? He is the run production, right? Even though the Mets are top 4 in the league in home runs. So, I mean, CD, I don't blame Ohtani because Ohtani during the season does look at his stats the entire year. Look at these stats the entire year. The fact of the matter is, I saw Pete Alonso, and there was a ton of people on the channel that talked about, oh, Pete Alonso, here it comes. Oh, he had men on base with less than 2. Look what he did against Atlanta. You know how bad his team, his average, and his power and his stats are in general against the Braves? Isn't that what matters? Has decent numbers against the Phillies, but are just not very good. The clutch moments, he's not very good. CD, the fact of the matter is, because nobody likes to talk about it, it's like the person in the corner that you don't want to talk about, like you don't want to make fun of, but we all know what that person looks like or what that person does, but we don't want to talk about it. Yet there's people like you, CD, that says give him a blank check. At some point, you got to be. You know why Ohtani's leaving? Because he's not winning, right? Ohtani is doing what LeBron James is going to do, right? Or most likely Ohtani's going to go to the Dodgers, right? So is everybody just the same reason? Like is Ohtani going to get all the credit when the Dodgers win? If the Dodgers win a World Series with Ohtani, is Ohtani going to get all the credit, or is it going to be everybody else, right? But I guarantee you, if the Mets would have won the World Series this year, Pete Alonso would get all the credit and not everybody else. No, Rich, I don't want to hear about the hitting coach. He's still hitting 50 home runs and 120 RBIs. So clearly, the hitting coach wasn't that much of a problem. You notice the guys after the trade deadline, the Nimmos, the McNeils, the Alonsos, the Lindor, let's put them in there too. All of a sudden, after the trade deadline, when the pressure was completely off, everybody starts hitting to their capabilities all of a sudden. So was it the hitting coach or was it the pressure? Are they mentally soft or are they not? And that goes for a lot of guys in this lineup. No, it's not. It's not personal. The fact of the matter is, I don't care how many home runs you hit in garbage time. And Pete Alonso has done a lot of that as well, specifically this year, right? Again, look at his stats in May and June, right? I would all think we all felt like we were still involved in a playoff push, right? In May and June, at least I hope so, right? Don't give me any stat that is worth anything after the trade deadline because there was no pressure anymore. There wasn't any pressure at all. How did Pete Alonso do in the postseason, along with 5 other guys on that team? Right? Down the stretch in September last year. Where is Pete Alonso picking everybody up? He's not the only one. But when Marte went down, Pete Alonso, along with other offensive guys, completely spit the bit because offense was the big problem in September. And again, if Pete Alonso has a great guy behind him, is he going to have better numbers? Possibly. But when are those better numbers? Are those better numbers are in August and September when those games really don't matter? Or is it in the biggest moments in the most important games? You know, those Philly series, those Brave series, when you're fighting for a couple of games there where, you know, where you really need those wins. Yeah, that's important. Because everybody's going to talk about this season is not on Alonso. That's fine. I appreciate that. Because it's not always about the numbers, right? And again, I'm telling you, people are going to start talking about Pete Alonso as part of the problem because as soon as he gets that big contract, because the Mets will give him that big contract, and nobody will be mad about that. But when he gets that big contract, there's more pressure to win. Because when you're the face, same thing with DeGrom. Even though DeGrom performed, DeGrom had to go above and beyond, right? Never got run support. It felt like every time he pitched, it was to stop a losing streak or continue a winning streak or not get swept in a series. It felt like DeGrom always had that pressure on him. And I think that's the most important thing where Pete Alonso is not getting a lot of the blame, even though in the 2 worst months of the season for the Mets, which were basically the middle of May until the end of June, Pete Alonso, along with Lindor, but if you look at Lindor's clutch numbers, they were astronomically better in those months than Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso, his biggest part of his game is home runs. I think we can all agree, right? Average, look, I like to hit for him to bat 250, which is his career average. That's fine. But you know what? He's still batting 221 when Francisco Lindor was batting just as bad as Pete Alonso, if not worse, and he got his average up to 250. And you're going to get 30 home runs from Lindor and 100 RBIs yet again. So people are still blaming Lindor for a bad season or not having these things work out this season. Yet Pete Alonso don't get the blame. Yet Lindor has had basically his career numbers, if not better. Well, easy. See, that's the problem that I have. CD, and I appreciate the super chat, the super sticker, buddy, and the donation. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Easy, and that's the point, right? It's not just about. And look, if Pete Alonso declines 8 years, $220 million, guys, listen. I'm sorry, I am not going more than that. I mean, maybe he would want a 9th year. I think he probably wants to go a 9th year, but that's risky, guys. Again, Pete Alonso is not in the best shape, known to man. He's not in tip-top shape. He's a little on the chunky side. I mean, he's tall, so you don't see it as much. But there's guys of his body type that can break down quickly as well. I mean, Pete Alonso was one of Albert Pujols is one of those guys. right? It's not as similar body type, but he just, I don't know. It just seems like, because we know that the Mets have offered him contract. Yeah, but you see, that's the problem, CD. I'm not going more than 250. I'm not going $220 million. I don't even think you should get $200 million, to be honest with you. $200 million is more than Freeman and Olsen. And Pete Alonso is not better than Olsen right now. As an all-around player, Olsen's the better player. So why should he get more money? Right? Any more than 8 years, I'm not doing. 8 years, 200 million should be more than enough. Because you're going to be the highest paid first baseman. And I have no problem doing that. But he's not better than the two players I just mentioned. As an all-around player, he is third compared to Olsen and Freeman. It's just that simple. Because Olsen and Freeman, they get the job done in all aspects of the game. Now, Pete Alonso's got extremely better defensively, and that's because of his hard work, which is awesome to see. But CD, how are they outdated? Olsen got the contract this offseason. Last offseason. That's not outdated at all. At all. At $200 million, you're going to be the highest paid first baseman. No matter if it's 7 years or 8 years. You'll be the highest paid first baseman. Yeah, I agree with that. But also, the fact of the matter is, a guy like Scherzer, there was nobody better than him on the market. That's why he got that. If there was a guy at his caliber, they probably would have been different. Yeah, they did buy out Olsen's, yes, but that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, Pete Alonso is not the best first baseman in baseball. He might be the best power hitter, even though Olsen can have something to say about that, right? Olsen can hit home runs just like Pete Alonso can. Now, Olsen, what I like about Olsen more this year, and I think a lot of Brave fans can agree with this, Matt Olsen, his average is up. That's the difference. Because if he was batting 215, 220 and hitting 55 home runs, yeah, that's nice and all. But that average, that you basically striking out and hitting home runs. That was the big problem that I had with him last year with Olsen. This year, he's not striking out as much, and his average is up. Now, Pete Alonso, he bats 250 and knocks in 50 home runs. There's not much to complain about. But you can't bat 215. And again, I think this is an anomaly with Pete Alonso. At least I hope so. I don't think he's a 220 hitter. I just think this is a crappy year for him. And that's, the power hitters and the RBIs, he can fall over with those numbers. That's fine. Yeah, Pete can get $200 million or less than $200 million because age comes into this situation too, right? He's a year older than Olsen. At the time of a contract, if they do it this offseason, he's a year older than Olsen. So you got to worry about age, not just the money. And again, if you don't want to take it, oh well, too bad. That's the way I see it. It's the way I see it. 8 years, 200. I think that's more than enough, to be honest with you guys. That's $25 million a year. Right? Isn't Olsen getting around 21? So you're getting $4 million more than the guy who's going to have the National League home run title, who is extremely better defensively than you. His average right now is better than you. Is going to have more RBIs than you. I don't know. Because right now, you're not the best first baseman in baseball. And I can say that you're not better than Freeman either. 8 years, $200 million is $25 million per year. That's more than every first baseman in baseball. How much more do you want? Because if you want 9 years at $250 million, that's what, $30 million a year? No. You better be you got to be a great all-around player to do that. Pete Alonso is a great power hitter, who is good average-wise if he goes by his career. Yeah, CD, I agree with that. I agree with that. But that was also Cohen going out of his mind as well. Like, I think all these players are overpaid. Aaron Judge is overpaid. Ohtani, when he gets his contract, will be overpaid. Right? Olsen is getting paid, I mean, nothing compared to what he's doing. Right? Shouldn't he be getting paid more than Pete Alonso? Absolutely. Probably Freeman as well. Because I think Alonso's arbitration is what, $19-20 million? So Pete Alonso's arbitration this year is around $19-20 million. And Olsen's getting 21. So, I mean, I'm sorry. If Pete Alonso doesn't take 8 years, $200 million, you'll be the highest paid first baseman. So if he doesn't take that, what are you going to go 9 years just to make him happy? So we're going to give a guy that's 29, pushing 30, and now we're going to have him until he's 39. Listen, if Cohen doesn't care, it ain't my money. Then give it to him then. The same thing goes for the Mets with Correa or Scherzer or Verlander. I don't care. Listen, I pay my hard-earned money to go see season tickets, along with a lot of other people. So if you want to spend my money to bring in talent or keep talent, I'm all for that. Yeah, but CD, that's the problem. The Mets see it as, I'm paying you as the highest paid first baseman. 208 years is $25 million a year. That is the highest first baseman in baseball. Now, for all we know, Pete Alonso has been turning down offers left and right from the Mets. But, here's the thing that I have a problem with. You see how Olsen basically took a discount, Albies, and I know they paid out arbitration years. If the Mets sign him in this offseason, you're buying out the one arbitration year. Right? The problem with players, and it goes for the Yankees as well, the players, the homegrown talent that is coming close to a free agency, like 2 years or 2 or 3 years away, I guarantee you the Mets offer these guys contracts. They offered Conforto. They offered not a great deal, but a decent deal for a Wheeler. The players and their agents, when they're on a New York team, they don't take hometown discounts. They don't. They don't take hometown discounts like the Braves players do, or the Rays players, or the Marlins players, or a lot of other teams players. They don't do that. You know why? Because they're always going to be running to the big market teams like LA, like New York, to get those big contracts. So why would I take less in New York? Pete Alonso, this deal should have been done already, but Pete Alonso's not taking any type of discount. So whose fault is that? If I'm the Mets, I have a limit. I'm sorry. What if Pete Alonso says, I'm not taking no less than $280 million over 8 years? CD, that's fine. You know what? Here, Pete, you know what? I don't think Olsen has an opt-out. I think Freeman has a no-trade clause. I don't think any of them have opt-outs. But even if they are opt-outs, Freeman's too old to opt out of that contract. Even if he's having a good year, nobody's going to give him that money again. Olsen is young enough where, all right, if you want to have an opt-out in 2 years, all right, you probably get a big-time contract even more. But I don't think there's an opt-out. I don't think there's an opt-out in that. Well, I'm sorry. Pete Alonso's not a $300 million a year player. Sorry, you're not. You're not a great overall player. You're a great power hitter. That's not enough to give you $300 million. The reason why Judge got that type of money was because he bats 300. He hits 50 home runs. He has 100 RBIs. He's great defensively. Pete Alonso, got better as a first baseman. He's above average first baseman. He's a 250 hitter. Now, he can hit home runs with the best of them, but he's not a 5-tool player. But I would probably push it to $250 million. That's fine. But I don't want to go to that 9th year. Now, that might be the deal breaker, and the Mets might budge on that and do it. That's fine. I don't know about that. Again, we can go over that. You can find every player that goes 0 for 4 today and goes 3 for 4 tomorrow. Like, you can find every player. But just, again, the people who were killing Francisco Lindor, oh, look at this guy betting 200, can't do anything, and yet Pete Alonso's doing the exact same thing during that same month, but Pete Alonso don't get no blame. See, that's it's just stupid to me, right? I'm biased towards everybody. I killed Lindor for not getting that average up, but when Lindor's average was down, his clutch numbers with runners on base were very good, but his average was down. And I killed him on that because we need him on base in front of Pete Alonso. But Lindor is also a run producer. And then I killed Brandon Nimmo because Brandon Nimmo is not a home run guy. He changed his swing to be a home run guy. We need Nimmo as your leadoff guy to be an on-base guy and an average guy. So Pete Alonso's great. And again, Lindor's living up, is hitting what he's doing in his career, just like Pete Alonso. But I saw Lindor get his average up to 250, where Pete Alonso's been hovering around 215, 220 the entire year. Right? If Pete Alonso's going to be a 250 career hitter, then that's fine. But 9 years is a lot. Now, the Mets might budge on that. And again, it's not my money. I mean, technically, it's all of our money, but it's not our money. Again, if you want a $700 million payroll, I can care less. Are we going to win? That's what matters. Because this core, Nimmo, McNeil, Alonso, Lindor, they're losers. They have not been winners. Can we be honest about that? Alonso's been here since 2019. McNeil, not too far below, with McNeil as well. Nimmo, the same thing. Before that, losers. At some point, this core needs to start being the actual core, because you can't always not blame them, but blame everybody else. I'm sorry. This is the Mets core four. You gave Nimmo a contract, you gave McNeil a contract, you gave Lindor a contract, and you're probably going to give Alonso a contract. So you're telling me that these four guys are your core four. These guys are got to step up. The Mets are not winning anything if these guys don't perform. I don't care who you have around them. This core should be enough to put other pieces around them. These other guys that you're bringing in shouldn't be world beaters. Your world beaters should be McNeil, Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor, McNeil. Those are your guys. Now, if you're paying attention to the Mets, you don't think for a second that Mauricio and Alvarez are not going to be a part of this team next year? Because McNeil's playing center field today, by the way. Mauricio's playing third base. I mean, second base, excuse me. Right? Vientos, you notice, has been playing a lot more third base. Beatty has been non-existent. So it's going to be very interesting to see here, because you can't pay your core guys like they're winners when they're not. Because you gave Nimmo a big contract. McNeil, you gave an extension to. Lindor, you gave a big contract to. Alonso's going to get a big contract. At some point, the core has got to be responsible for winning. Now, you got to put the missing pieces around them. But at some point, this core has to win. This core is supposed to be what takes them to the next level. I don't want to hear about Vogelback or Canna. Those guys are middle of the road players. If Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, and Nimmo don't do their job, this team's never going to win no matter who you have on this team. No, well, then what's the problem? No, they weren't actually, because Lindor and Alonso were hitting about 30. Well, Lindor is having a similar season than last year. Alonso's not. I'm sorry. You don't think if Alonso was betting 30 points higher that the Mets wouldn't have more runs brought in, maybe a couple of more wins? I mean, it might have not mattered in the long run, but you don't think Nimmo, average down, on base down, home runs up, which I think is a huge problem for this team. Can we stop about the home runs now? They're third in the league in home runs, and they're probably gonna have a top 6 pick in the draft. That's how bad they've been. Yet they completely went away from what they were doing well. Yeah, I agree with starting pitching and bullpen, but when the starting pitching started to pick up, the offense was non-existent. Again, this is an overall disaster. You can blame you can pick a player and they're part of the problem, all of them, right? Because when the Mets really needed their big guns in Lindor and Alonso, they were nowhere to be found in June, where this team needed them. Well, I disagree. Nimmo's a leadoff hitter. Nimmo's a fine leadoff hitter. Now, if Nimmo did what he did last year, he would be even a better leadoff hitter. The problem with Nimmo being a leadoff hitter is that he doesn't steal bases. And I think that's a huge problem for a leadoff guy, especially nowadays with the new rules. And I think it's important to realize that at some point, you got to start blaming the core. The Mets are believing in Nimmo, McNeil, Lindor, and soon Alonso. Once they all get all have their contracts, sooner or later, this core has to be the reason why this team contends. Because if not, it's a lot of money wasted on a core that is not enough. The way I see it. Now, we'll see what happens in the offseason, what they're going to do. It's going to be very interesting to see. So we got about a couple of minutes until game time. Let me go through the lineup before you guys can enjoy the Mets game and, of course, the football as well. Today's lineup, Brendan Nimmo leading off, DH, and Ronnie Mauricio playing second base, batting second. Pete Alonso batting third, playing first base. Francisco Lindor cleaning up, playing shortstop. Francisco Alvarez catching, batting fifth. Jeff McNeil batting sixth, playing center field. Interesting. Mark Vientos batting seventh, playing third base. Mark Vientos is playing a lot more than Brett Beatty. Watch that for a second, ladies and gentlemen. DJ Stewart playing right field, batting eighth. And Tim Locastro playing center field, batting ninth. Tonight's starter, Jose Quintana against Brandon Williamson of the Reds. The Mets are looking to avoid a sweep of the The Reds have won the first 2 games of the series. The Reds are looking for a playoff spot. The Mets are trying to play spoilers with the Reds and the Marlins and the Phillies and all that fun stuff. So, with that said, guys, at some point, this core 4, Alonso, Lindor, McNeil, and Nimmo, they're going to start taking a lot of blame if this team doesn't win. These are your core players. These are the guys you gave big contracts to and extensions to because you believe this is the core to take you to the next level. Now, you can put a couple of pieces around them. You don't need great pieces. You need pieces that fit well. But in the biggest moments, if this core 4 doesn't do what they're supposed to do, this team is never going to win. This team had great pitching last year. In September, the offense failed them to win a division. In the playoffs, it was the pitching. Mostly the offense too, but the pitching as well. At some point, this core has got to do their job. Yeah, I agree. And the most frustrating thing about this year is that the National League is not even that good. And the Mets, if they didn't have a terrible June, might have been in this race because all they had to be is a 500 team right now or a game or 2 over 500 and they're in the race. That's what's so frustrating. And I blame everybody from management all the way down to every player on this team. So with that said, guys, enjoy the game. Mets, Reds, Quintana on the mound. Jeff McNeil playing center field and Mark Vientos getting a lot of playing time over Beatty. That's very important to look at because Vientos was in the doghouse with Buck, and Beatty was playing a lot. Very interesting to see. But Vientos has been playing a lot better. So we shall see, guys. With that said, guys, everybody have a good day. Enjoy your football Sunday. Enjoy the Mets game, guys. With that said, let's go Mets. Have a great day. I'll see you next time. Let's go Mets. Good night, guys. Have a great football Sunday.
Let's take a look.